I don't know of anybody else that would be coming on. We'll start the meeting at 8:01 to my watch. And the first application we have is Andrew Prue.
Good job pronouncing that.
I think that's it, but
Yeah, it is.
I'm wrong.
It is.
And the application is for 92 Castleview Drive on Long Pond. And the proposes to add a 15 by 20 addition to replace the existing deck. No new bedrooms will be added. 0.6 acres of property, all in the shoreline zone. Yeah, it's basically a replacement of the deck with a sunroom.
Yep.
I've been to this property before.
Beautiful, isn't it?
My niece and nephew rented it.
Oh, I love it.
So yeah, it is a nice little spot. Just watch the rocks out front.
Oh, I'm nervous. I haven't seen it yet. So
no, it's one part of your motor. You don't see it. Don't go too fast till you get out there ways.
okay.
All right. So can you perhaps Gary, do you have anything for us on this one?
Not really. I mean, it's just a replacement of a sunroom for a deck. There's no additional square footage.
And there's, from what I can see of the application, it's going to be done with sonotubes with hopefully hand digging. So
we're going to try and hand dig them. We're going to try and hand dig them. Worst case is we might have to bring one of those little sit-on things to dig a couple holes. I don't know how rocky it is in there, but we're going to try and dig them.
Well, if you get to the point where you really need to be digging and do a significant amount of digging with backhoe or something like that, you'll need to get in touch with Gary.
Okay.
To pass on the DEP, because if we get into significant digging, you need a DEP certified contractor for deal with soils. So
there's existing sonotubes there that we'll be able to utilize, and they look like they were hand dug. I'm assuming we can do the same, but I have no problem calling Mr. Fuller. He's super easy to access if we have to get into something a little more.
All right. Do you have anything you want to say before we get going? Or
nope, I've done this before. I work hand in hand with the city of Topsom all the time doing new development we're actually doing a shoreline construction on the river down there right now. I'm pretty familiar. This is pretty clear cut and dry. We just don't quite have enough room out there. We don't have a place to actually eat. So we figured we'd make a sun porch so we could put a little dining room table out there. And that's pretty much it. We're tearing down that existing deck. And actually technically we're downsizing a couple square feet. So it should be totally covered.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll let the rest of the board go first as whether they have any questions of you based on the application. I know I've got a couple myself, but I'll let the board go first.
Yeah, I don't have really much for questions. You basically addressed my questions when you revised the application form and got the numbers to line up. Okay.
Sorry about that. That's what happens when you Google.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. Saves everybody some time. I guess for the record, we should say this is a non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's in concert with the land use standards in terms of an allowed use. Let's see. The only thing that and I guess it's worth noting that since the property was bought just recently back in January, inspection of the septic system, subsurface wastewater disposal system was conducted, and it's not failing or anything of that nature, so that's good. So we're free to proceed based on that, because without that we wouldn't be able to issue a permit.
Yep.
I was glad to see that come back in the revised paperwork, because I, my immediate thought was, oh, there's a condition to be added to the application.
Yeah, no, it inspected and it passed with flying colors.
Yeah. And we got the profile drawings that oftentimes are lacking, so we appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really don't have any questions, Rich. The only thing I would note is that we'll probably need a condition to deal with stormwater off of the roof of the sunroom.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sarah, do you have any, being your first meeting, I'm wondering if, well, put it this way, whether it's your first meeting or not, whether you have any questions or comments on the application at this point. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Now you can hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
So this be my first meeting, and having gone through the 500 pages that Anthony supplied to me. I'm really impressed with the protocols and guidance that our towns and our state require for any construction. And I wish I can cut you guys off and take you to meet with me to Puerto Rico to do this. Be a completely different place over there. But anyways, I don't have any questions. I don't.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question, and the first question's to Mr. Prue. The second question will be to Gary. In the photos, it looks like on the back of the house, there's like, is that an outdoor shower?
Yeah, it was existing with the property. It's all disconnected, but it's out there.
Okay, Gary,
Yes,
is such a thing illegal if it actually is functioning?
I believe they're grandfathered is what I was.
it is grandfathered. If you was putting an outside shower today, it actually has to be, it can't dump on the ground. It has to tie into a septic system.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was the case, but okay,
Yeah.
if in fact it's grandfathered, that, let's see.
But you said it's not functioning anyway.
It's winterized. I mean, it works,
Oh,
but it's just
Yeah.
winterized, but it's original to the house. I had asked when I purchased the property.
Yep.
And let's see, oh, the only thing that, and it's something that you've got the dimensions of the, or the square footage of the existing deck.
Yep.
Would have been nice to actually have the dimensions of the deck itself. I know it's weird shaped. And
It is. It's got an octagon and.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
got-
I sat right on it.
Yeah, if Gary wants to come verify, he's more than welcome.
It's, we'll take your word that it's 312, well, the new, yeah, 312.
And in that measurement, I did not include the dimensions of the staircases
Mhm,
because we're probably going to reutilize those same staircases. So
mhm.
I didn't include those, just so you
Yeah.
know. So
I would, I don't know if this is just something that's a comment, it has nothing to do with whether the application will go. If that outdoor shower is attached to the structure,
Yep.
that would also be counted toward the square footage of the structure. You're not dealing with it, you're not changing anything, so
oh,
it's,
right. Yeah.
but if it is attached, that extra, 4x4 or something would show, so.
Right.
I guess the key though is that one, it's not more non-conforming, and two, it isn't an expansion. of the
Right,
footprint.
okay. So I guess, I think we've answered all the questions. Not, I've been to enough meetings, I ought to know the answer to this one. At this point, do we go directly to findings and fact of order? Or do you vote on this thing first?
I think technically we're supposed to go through the findings of fact.
Yeah.
And then arrive at a final decision, although, the conclusions of law section immediately jumps to, well, yeah, why don't we do it that way, and then we'll have a final vote
Yeah,
with a condition.
that makes sense.
And just so you know, Andrew, the condition will be, and it's a standard condition, will be to manage the stormwater runoff from the rooftop of the sunroom only, because that's all we have jurisdiction over today. And when you get the permit, it'll come with something from the Department of Environmental Protection that outlines stormwater best management practices called conservation practices for homeowners.
I can do that.
All right. Okay.
Basically, an infiltration, gravelled or crushed rock infiltration along the perimeter there.
Yeah,
is
no
the
problem.
way- That's the way most people go, because it's simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just trying to keep the stormwater out of the lake.
Yep. It's important on Long Pond for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, unfortunately.
Do you want to move through those, George? Because I don't have
Sure.
a copy.
Yeah, I had the form, Anthony provided them to me, and I don't have the capability of Peter Russian where he's got multiple computer screens going at the same time. So I'm doing this old school by hand. And then then after we've approved it, I'll scan it and send it to Anthony. And then he'll probably, I can't remember the software package now that he uses to send it to you, Rich, for your signature. I think it requires your signature, maybe not. Oh, yeah, it does.
I can actually stop at the town office, sign it, and make it simple.
So the first finding that we need to make is and I'll read this since you folks don't have this in front of you. This is pretty tedious, Andrew, so stick with it.
No problem.
This will take longer than reviewing the application.
Before we did this, we would have been going home already.
Yeah. So based on the application materials, testimony, statements, evidence, documents, and other materials submitted to and the findings of fact, planning board finds that the project is or is not a permitted use under section 14, table 1, and that's the allowed uses by district. I believe the answer to that is it is a permitted use. This is
I agree.
so. I guess we need to vote on each one individually.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that this is a permitted use.
Can the chair second something?
I
Um,
second it.
Not Sarah's.
Thank you, Sarah. Way to come through.
I'm trying to move along.
We'll do a roll call vote. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes,
and I'll go with yes too.
Okay, 3-0. Next item is in terms of a finding is we'll maintain safe and helpful conditions by a vote of the board found this standard was or was not met and based on, and our standard language is based on materials submitted and the public record. So I would suggest that this was met.
You want to make a motion, or is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to that effect that the standard was met based on the material submitted in the public record.
Sarah?
I second it.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes,
and I'm a yes too.
Okay. So we approved that by 3-0. The Next one is will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters. By a vote of blank, the board found the standard was not met. And I would make a motion that it was met with the condition that stormwater best management practices are implemented.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Sarah. A roll call vote on that one, George?
Yes.
Sarah?
yes.
I'm yes as well. That's a 3-0 vote in favor.
Next up is will adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewater. By a vote of blank, the board found the standard was not met. I'll make a motion that it was met.
Second,
All right. Roll call vote on this one. George?
Yes.
Sarah?
yes.
Yes. Again, 3-0 in the affirmative.
For will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat. By a vote of blank, the board found this standard was not met. I would make a motion that it was met based on the materials submitted and our discussion.
Second,
Okay, we got a motion and a second. George?
Yes.
Sarah?
yes.
And yes as well here. 3-0 in the affirmative again.
Okay, next is will conserve shore cover with visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters. I'm not sure whether this is applicable or not, since there's no clearing proposed.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know what,
Can you read that? Can you read that again from scratch, George?
yeah, will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters. By a vote-
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just-
let's vote on that. It's it's possible that somebody could get a permit for this and then go wipe out any trees down along the shoreline or whatever, but
Okay, so that would be by a vote of the board found the standard was not met, and I would make a motion that it was met.
Second,
okay, we have a motion and a second. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes.
and I'm yes as well. Again, 3-0 in favor.
Next item is will protect archaeological and historic resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. I would say this one's not applicable.
I would agree. And Sarah, the reason we say not applicable is we know there's only 2 of them in town, I think, and that's not anywhere near here.
Yeah. And
Which are they?
one's in the village. And one is that stone house out on Route 11, I believe it is. Isn't it, Rich?
I don't know. I know this is not a stone house.
Yeah. Yeah, there are 2 historical sites in town.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
Actually, there might be
I
3.
think
It might be
was a
the town.
stone house.
What's that?
Isn't
Gary?
it,
It
isn't
was a
the
stone.
underground road end over there by the Don Road or something like that in that area?
Don't think that's what it is. Gary, were you gonna say where they were?
The stone house was one of them. That used to be the game warden, Mr. Page. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I have that cookbook from Game Warden's Wives from way back when.
Yeah.
And his wife has a recipe, has number.
Andrew, I'm so sorry about the side talk, but I just
Oh,
need
I
to
love-
know
that's
this
fine.
because I knew in the board.
No
So I need
problem.
to get an understanding of what's going on.
Hello.
So Andrew, as you can tell, we're a highly professional board here.
Hey, it's all good.
How many more of these we got, George?
We got a few more. I'll move it along. Sorry, Rich.
No, I just
I'll try not
wondered.
to digress.
I know when we get the commercial development one, it's like, oh geez. Anyway, go ahead.
I got a suggestion for how to shorten this up coming up in a minute here. But the next item is will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use. Was not met.
Okay. I guess we vote on this one. I was initially thinking maybe it's not applicable because it's not in floodplain, but
Yeah,
I think we,
I would make a motion that it was met.
okay. Do we have a second?
Yes, second,
Okay, we'll vote. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes,
and I'm yes as well. I guess I keep forgetting to say, are there any discussion, but I don't think that's been necessary.
Yeah, we'll speak up if there is. So the next item is asks the question, is this in conformance with the provisions of section 15, which are all the land use standards? And sometimes we go through each one individually, and this includes minimum lot standards. I'll read them all. Minimum lot standards, principal and accessory structures, campgrounds, private campgrounds, commercial industrial uses, parking, septage, some of this hazard trees, et cetera. There's,
Yeah.
so I was wondering if we could just all lump those into one vote.
I would think that would make sense, and I would think it's plenty legal.
So I would make a motion that the board found that the standard was met based on the evidence in the record, and that's my motion.
Okay.
second,
And any discussion? Again, I won't do the discussion part. You guys jump in if you have questions or concerns. George?
Yes.
For voting.
Yes.
Sarah?
yes,
Yes, for me as well. 3-0.
So that brings us to the conditions of approval needed to meet the Belgrade Shoreline zoning ordinance findings in section 16D. And the one that I believe is applicable and the only one that's necessary is the stormwater one. And I'll just read it for your, for everyone's benefit. It reads, manage stormwater runoff from new or expanded structures in accordance with section 15I of the Belgrade Shoreline zoning ordinance and the Maine Department of Environmental Protection's best management practices as outlined in Conservation Practices for Homeowners publication. Such measures are to be put in place prior to building use. And it goes on to say, note, this is a standing condition that applies to all permits unless deemed unnecessary by the planning board based on the following rationale. So it's sort of a rebuttable assumption. To meet the water quality standard, I believe this is necessary.
Yeah, okay. Do we need to have a motion on that, or was that the motion, or do we?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to, well, actually, the next item is based on the above findings of fact and conclusions on law. We vote to approve, and so I would make a motion to approve the application as submit as amended and with the condition, the stormwater management best management practices condition.
Do we have a second? Yep. You're getting quick at that, Sarah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, we'll vote on that. This is to approve the application with condition. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes,
yes, here as well. So we voted 3-0 to approve the application with the condition relating to stormwater management or soil erosion control. So your application is approved. You'll get a copy of it in you get the copy of the permit in the mail. Do you have any questions for us?
No, but I do have a comment. I own property in probably 9 different towns in the state of Maine. And I know that codes enforcement officers get a bad rap, but Mr. Fuller is always accessible. I have actually called him to leave a message on a weekend, and he will pick up the phone, and I'm like, sorry. I said, I just want to leave a message. He's like, well, you got me now. You know, what can I help you with? And I mean, if I can give a shout out to somebody who is super user friendly, I just wanted to do that. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So
Nice to hear.
Yeah.
thanks, guys. Appreciate you kind of slide me in a little early in the special meeting, and Mr. Fuller, stop by anytime you like. So
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Have a good
All right.
day.
thanks,
Have a good
guys.
day, Andrew. Yep.
All right, take care.
Thanks.
Okay, gentlemen, I just texted our second applicant. You guys made it through that a lot faster than I anticipated, and so he'll be signing on here shortly.
That's what you have me on, Anthony.
Absolutely, Sarah. Oh, there he is right there.
Oh, that's Gary. Oh, hi, sir.
Yeah.
You're Mr. Rancourt.
He's muted.
We can't hear you.
How's that? Is that better?
much
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's much better. I'm sorry, but I've got to get to the right app. Okay. So you're Mr. Frederick Rancourt from Portsmouth, New Hampshire,
Yes,
and you're proposing, or let me say this, we're dealing with application 21-15, which proposes to construct a 10 by 30-foot deck on the side of the house and to construct a 10 by 16-foot shed, as shown on the attached drawing. My understanding, there's no change, going to be no change to the septic system or anything like that.
correct.
Okay. The lot area is 18,000 square feet, of which it's all in the shoreline zone. And the total footage of unvegetated area is 1,224 square feet. And cleared openings is 10,000 square feet of the 18,000. In this construction project, do you anticipate any tree cutting?
No,
No, okay. Do you have anything you want to tell us first before we jump into our discussion, or any
no,
comment?
it's pretty straightforward as you described. You know, previously when back in 1994, I believe, I put in a permit to build this deck when I was doing some other work, and I started the project by, you know, fixing the camp in terms of putting a slider up and a ledger on the camp. And then I wasn't able to finish the deck, and life goes by, and here I am trying to finish my deck.
Mhm. Yeah, okay. I don't think this is going to affect anything or not, but I noticed in your discussion or your presentation of that on paper anyway, is that you referenced you had a substantial start. I'm not sure technically there's enough have been done to be a substantial start, but again, I don't think that aspect is going to affect the application any. Gary, do you have anything you want to say?
I do.
Okay,
In 1994, we was using the 30% rule.
Mhm.
If you took the square footage of the camp and the existing deck, that's 1,160 square feet.
Mhm.
Within 100 feet, you're only allowed 1,000. So if you don't deem this application as substantially started, I don't see that this deck can be constructed.
I think it can because what my thinking, I was going through this, is that part of that deck, you're allowed 1,000 feet within 75 feet of the water.
Okay,
And part of that deck, the existing deck, only part of it extends within that 75 feet. Let me, I want to put the sketch up there. Yeah. Let's see. 60 feet gets you to the deck,
correct.
and then you've got 15 feet of deck, so 15 times 25. Or is it 15 by 10? Oh, it's only 10 feet wide. 15 by
10.
10 adds 150 feet to it. Not, so we're not at the, wait a minute. I had done some calculations that came out that this was 1,000 square feet within.
That's what mine comes out to. Basically, there's a line at 75 feet that kind of goes right through both decks and the camp. So if you look at the camp as a structure, it's 24 feet wide, 25 feet from the start, which is 75 feet. So that would be 600 square feet of the building itself within the 75 feet.
Correct. That's
And then you look at the existing deck, as you said, 10 feet back from 50 is 60. So another 15 feet gets you to 75. So it's 15 times 10, it's 150 square feet for the existing deck within the 75 feet. And then when you get to the proposed deck, it'll be 10 by 25 to get you to 75 feet, and that's 250. So you add 150, 250, and 600, that's 1,000 square feet.
That's where that was my calculation on when you consider the part of the structure that's outside the 75 feet and deduct that. George, did you have any comment on that?
Well, to be quite honest, I totally missed that issue. That analysis makes sense to me, but I value Gary's thought on that, having heard it.
Well, I think I see Rich's point now.
Okay. Yeah, no, to be honest with you, I totally, sort of in the haste of reviewing this, I totally missed the square footage within the setbacks issue. So I'm glad the two of you caught that.
Yeah, well, I missed it to begin with, and then I went over it again last night, and I'm thinking, oh, this is exactly where it can go. It can't be another foot bigger, and it comes out to 1,000 within that 75 feet. And I did some calculations, at least I think I did almost, my writing is that we'll end up with 1,460 square feet within 100 feet of the water. So obviously you did some calculations to make this fit, and I believe that it's okay. George, you have any other questions or comments?
I actually don't, other than I don't.
I do have one. The shed looks like it's being, and this would be a question of Gary, whether he knows the answer. Looks like that shed is being proposed to be built right underneath the power line.
Yeah, I had that question too.
So is that allowed, or?
Is that power line, does it feed other camps?
It actually does. There's a camp, pretty much right on the, southern property line, just about maybe a foot in from that. The lots were divided, so that's where the structure was at the time.
Yeah,
That's my neighbors. And so it feeds, that pole feeds that camp, in a
well,
certain direction.
I think you're gonna find that CMP is gonna tell you need to be 15 feet from that power line. That's
Um,
been my experience when I've dealt with
okay.
them.
That's what I thought. I didn't know if it was 10 or 15, but we've dealt with this situation before.
Yeah.
And concluded that we couldn't approve it because it didn't have the setback from the power line. Is there another place on the property that you could?
I got the, I have the site plan in front of me here. Let me just grab it. Well, I mean, I have other areas, it's kind of catching me cold a little bit, but, I would imagine I have room somewheres in the, my view is like past 100 feet, right, would be where I'd want to put this, right?
Have to be past 100 feet.
Have-
Let me also state that at least as I see the project or see the, based on the application and dimensions, I believe you're at or beyond the legal clearing allowance for, so I think my thinking is that, I'm not saying you have a violation. I'm saying, I'm thinking that you won't be able to clear more area to put this shed. It's got to be on an existing cleared
Right.
area.
Right, I have no intentions of cutting any trees.
Mhm.
I have plenty of cleared area to put this on. I just, at this moment, I couldn't tell you exactly where that would be if it's not there. And other than I know I have to be 100 feet back. And then somewhere's, obviously away from my leach field. And you said it's 15 feet to the pole?
I think it is, yes. You can check with CMP, but the last time that we've dealt with this, I recall that they said 15 feet from the line.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
recollection as well.
Okay. Well, I actually, now that I look at it, being underneath there's actually a feeder from the pole that goes to the camp
Yeah.
is actually right where I have the 16-foot dimension line.
Mhm.
That's about where their side of their camp is.
Mhm.
And that's where the pole feeds to. So it probably is advantageous to me to move that outside of where all that is going on.
Mhm. I'm thinking, sitting here thinking, how do we move forward with this? Can we, through this meeting, amend the location of where the structure would be? Do we table it? Do we approve it partially and partially deny? I think that's something that we need to make that decision based on your input.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, the other location, if I slid that to the north toward exactly where it is from the lake across, I have room over there. I mean, I wouldn't be putting it over my septic line, but basically, as long as I meet the 10-foot setback from the property line, it would be probably in there somewheres back, basically sliding it to as you're looking at the site plan with the lake at the top to the left. I probably would have it probably 30 feet so that it would be away from the, oh yeah, so it's away from the pole, not the power line, right?
No, the power line.
Oh, the power line.
Yeah,
So it has to be 15 feet away from the power line, so it's not underneath the 15 feet underneath. Okay,
You can check with CMP, but that's what I last remember.
okay.
Rich,
So I either have to move it closer to the leach field to get that 15 feet in the back
Yes,
corner.
yeah.
is there a setback from the leach field, Gary? Um, minimum requirement?
It's just a wooden floor,
Mhm.
wooden
mean, the-
floor, not a slab.
Yeah, it's just a wooden floor, right?
It's supposed to be 15 feet from the
15
leach
feet
field.
from the leach field.
Okay,
Mhm.
George, you were gonna suggest something, or?
yeah, rather than putting Mr. Rancourt on the spot as well as ourselves, I mean, it seems like we have two choices here. And I have a preference for one of the two. One would be to try to do this with a pretty convoluted condition of approval. Or second, and this is my preference, would be to table it, give Mr. Rancourt the opportunity to think about this some more, check with CMP if he so wishes, and come back with a revised site plan showing the new location of the proposed shed.
Yeah. Yeah, you may find that CMP says, well, it's just a little shed, we don't care. But anyway, we don't know the answer to that, so.
Yeah. I mean, the instances where that's come up in the past have been actually with camp structures or moving camps back to the when we were considering, at least ones I can recall, where we were considering how far could an existing camp be moved back away from the lake as a result of, say, a new foundation or something of that nature. And so that's a little bit different than a small shed, but that would be my suggestion.
Mr. Rancourt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a possibility of approving the deck and just tabling the shed, and I put in that separate, like separate it from this? Is that a possibility? Because it seems like the shed to me was the less complex of all of this, except now having it where I just chose a bad location. I have other locations, but getting caught cold, I'm not sure where I would prefer to have it. If I could table that from this discussion, is that a possibility?
I don't know, George or Gary, do you have any thoughts on that, or Sarah? But I'm sure you don't have any particular.
I think you could amend the application to eliminate the shed, yes.
Yeah, because then I could just put that in separately.
Correct.
and-
I think so.
Would that take another application?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so we can do that, but we wouldn't be tabling
Right,
the shed, we would be denying the shed, and then you can come back later. It'll cost you another $50 or something.
yeah, I mean,
No, it's not even that much, but
no, because it's the square footage is probably small, and then you'd still have to have the shoreline zoning $25. So that's
That's
to me
right.
that's not significant.
Okay.
right. Check with CMP before you fill out another application.
Okay.
Yep.
So how would you recommend I go forward from this meeting on that? Is what's approved? I guess I'm just asking what's approved and what's not.
Well, we haven't really decided. Something Gary said rung a bell in my mind is, could we approve the deck and with a condition, say, we approve the shed provided that Central Maine Power is that the setback is not from the power line is not an issue.
How about if you was to place a condition that said that the shed met setbacks from the power line, from property lines, from the water body, and from the leach field.
Mhm.
That too many conditions?
Oh, it's one of them things where I think we like to know when we're proving something, where it's at.
Okay, and he needs to submit a second application then
Yeah.
for the shed.
That probably well, let me say this, is probably the best
Yeah,
way to do this and make it clear for you and the board.
yeah, and I'm fine with that.
Okay. George, do you want to make a motion?
Sure. Or tentative motion, because we got to go through the findings, but yeah, so I foresee a motion that we approve solely the proposed 10 by 30 deck. I think we need to be silent about the shed because we can't do both. We can't deny and approve an application.
You can't have a partial approval, partial denial?
Well, I think I don't know how to do it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, we can be silent, or I don't know if we can say we're not approving the deck.
Yeah, or we can
I
do
got to make it clear, or not the deck, the shed.
in the findings, I can make it clear and we can discuss this when we get to it, that we're only approving the deck and not the shed.
Mhm. Okay, all right. Sarah, does this make sense to you, or what, as you're listening to us? Being new, I guess kind of look at this as almost like a training session.
Yeah, I agree with that, what George suggested.
Mhm.
I mean, we're trying to be friendly to people that move in our community and want to do things in our community. And Mr. Rankert is amicable to what we're suggesting. I don't want him to have extra work besides contacting CMP for now. And but to keep the paperwork clean, we certainly have to approve. We can approve the deck, but we cannot really go forward with the shed.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I'm a little confused with the approval process. Is the proposed shed, other than the CMP question mark about setbacks from the pole or the line, does it meet all the other
Yeah,
shoreline zoning?
If it weren't for that, I think you'd see us
Yeah,
simply approving the project.
We'd be done by now.
I'm kind of wondering if that's what I'm concerned with is I really appreciated you all doing this special session, and if I don't get this approved or get it seems like it's so close, all I have to do is check with CMP and
resubmit.
and then we got a thumbs up. Is there an option that I can do that as an action from this meeting, then get back to somebody? I don't know who the person to get back to would be, if it's Mr. Fuller.
Well, let me offer something else here and see what the rest of the board thinks. Could we approve the deck and the shed own this and word it such that the shed is only approved if it meets proper CMP setbacks?
I believe we could, and I think what we would need to do to document that is as a condition, well, that would be part of the condition, and that Mr. Rancourt get written documentation from CMP to that effect, basically, that you know, that location is satisfactory to them with respect to the power line, and have that submitted to Gary.
Yeah, and the other thing I'm thinking is in relation to from the shed to the power line, that's not in our ordinance. That's an issue between Mr. Rancourt and CMP, to be honest with you.
It is.
If he
do make a good point.
if he built that shed too close to the power line, the town couldn't take legal action. It's an issue between CMP and him.
Any other thoughts from the board? I understand your point. We're denying something based on somebody else's rule.
That's right. Correct.
Yeah. That's a good point, Gary. I guess how it impacts us. So let's say say we approve it as is.
Yeah.
And CMP says you can't build it there. I guess that's it. You can't build it there.
That's right.
And if he does, he'll be fighting with CMP if they choose to.
Or at that point, I would have to come back to you and say, I'm gonna relocate it here.
Right.
Which is
Right.
my plan B, which I'd like to get plan A done. And if CMP says I can't put it there, then I'd come back to you with a new application for the shed itself and say, now I want to put it in this other location.
I mean, Gary's exactly right that we don't have a setback in the ordinance.
We don't.
Ours are from property lines, lake, et cetera, not power line.
Right.
I have questions about how that plays out in other scenarios, but we won't go into that now. But I would be okay with that. You know, we're kind of come full circle here, but you know, as long as it's understood that if CMP might have a pocket veto on this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Mr. Rancourt will check with CMP, because the last thing he wants to do is place that shed there and them tell him he's got to move it.
Right. You know, that's a good point, Gary.
Yeah, I've got an action right here. I need to check with CMP. If they don't let me put it there, then I have to find a new location, and that'll require me to come back to you with a permit.
Correct.
And that was my plan, that I don't mind doing that, but I don't want to if I don't have to.
Yeah. Gary, I'm glad you made that comment, because if we denied this, and we certainly wouldn't be enforcing it, the judge would throw it right out of the town of Belgrade.
That's right.
Or some others. So anyway.
Or the appeals board could overturn it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because I hadn't thought of needing to check with CMP, so I will do that for sure.
Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion on this application?
So I guess to wrap up, so I understand, we're moving forward with the approval with the caveat that Mr. Rancourt is going to send us documentation that CMP has no issue with it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure he needs to do that.
I
Okay.
don't think it is.
Because again, it's not in our ordinance, and we'll let Mr. Rancourt defend himself if he decides to put that shed in there and see him. I'm not saying you are.
No, I have no intention of.
Yeah, I think.
I don't think it needs to be a condition, Mr. Rancourt, but
Okay.
it might be helpful if you let Gary know what the outcome was with the phone call, because, you know, next time we could avoid this, you know, half an hour of discussion.
Sure. No, I will do that, because it is it's a good point, and it seems to be outside of one requirement and maybe within another. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because as Gary mentioned and Rich mentioned, this comes up periodically in different scenarios, but this is the simplest in many ways, but
I will do that. I'll get the result of that to Mr. Fuller.
Thank you.
Before we get into the findings and fact and all that, I guess I just want to make sure that we as a board are comfortable with the essentially decision to approve the application as is.
Yeah.
And,
I certainly am after all this discussion and sort of, better understanding of what the importance or lack thereof of the CMP power line is.
Yeah, okay. So, Mr. Rancourt, we've got to go through a extended list of findings of the address issues. So it's going to take 10 or 15 minutes to get through this. It's formality, so to speak. So we'll let George, he's going to direct us through this process, and then we'll make a final vote.
Okay. Should I just stand by or should I log off? What's your?
No, it's a standby.
Okay.
Yeah. We still have to make our final vote and make sure everything goes the way we've discussed it, because it should happen to change in the mid-course here. Unlikely as that is, but.
Right.
So the first conclusion we have to reach is based on the application submitted, Belgrade Planning Board finds that the project is or is not a permitted use under section 14, table 1 of the ordinance. And again, that's the allowed land uses by district. And I believe it is a permitted use. So I would make a motion to that effect, that the project is permitted under section 14, table 1.
We have a second.
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Probably not. Roll call vote. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. It's 3-0 in the affirmative.
The next conclusion will maintain a safe and helpful conditions by a vote of blank. The board found the standard was not met. I would make a motion that the standard was met.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All those, not all those in favor. A roll call so we know. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
and yes for me as well. Again, 3-0 in the affirmative.
Will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters. By a vote of blank, the board found this standard was not met. I would make a motion that the standard was met with by adding the implementation of DEP best management practices for stormwater from the shed.
Do we have a second?
Yes. I second it.
Okay. And a vote, George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
and I'm yes as well, 3-0.
For your benefit, Mr. Rancourt, you'll see when we get to the end of this, we have basically a standard condition of approval that requires stormwater coming off of rooftops to be handled in accordance with these state best management practices. That could be something as simple as an infiltration gravel around the drip line. Oh, give me a minute here. Next one is will adequately provide for disposal of all wastewater by a vote of blank, the board found the standard was not met. I would make a motion that the standard was met.
Sarah? do we have a-
Second,
All right, we'll vote on that as well. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes.
and yes for me as well. 3-0 in favor.
The next will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat. By a vote of blank, the board found the standard was not met. I would make a motion that standard was met.
Do we have a second?
Second,
All right, all those in favor, George,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes.
and I'm yes as well. Unanimous.
Will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters. The board found this standard was not met. I would make a motion that the standard was met.
Second,
Second. Okay, we'll have a vote. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes.
I'm yes as well. 3-0.
Will protect archaeological and historical resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. I believe this is not applicable.
Yeah, I agree. Do we need to vote? That's not applicable?
I think so.
George, you say you don't think so, or you do?
Right.
Okay.
Don't. Unless Sarah disagrees,
No.
in which case we better vote. Will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use. The board found the standard was not met. I would make a motion that the standard was met.
Do we have a second?
I second,
Okay. Vote on that. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes.
and yes here as well. 3-0 in the affirmative.
Then we have, next up is the whole collection of A through X of the provisions of section 15, the land use standard. So again, this is minimum lots standards, principal and accessory structures, parking, roads, signs, stormwater, and these other items. And the board found that this standard has been met. I would make a motion that the standard has been met with the condition that stormwater best management practices are implemented.
We have a second.
I second it.
Okay. Voting on whether the land use standards are being met. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
yes, and as well, and so that passes 3-0. I think George froze.
You too.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Nicest thing you've ever said about me, Rich. So we're down to, lastly, the conditions of approval. And for Mr. Rancourt's benefit, I'll just read this so that you fully understand. Manage stormwater runoff from new or expanded structures in accordance with section 15I of the Belgrade Shoreline zoning ordinance and the Maine Department of Environmental Protection's best management practices as outlined in conservation practices for homeowners publication. Such measures are to be put in place prior to building use. That publication will actually be sent to you when you get your permit. It lists a whole bunch of options, everything from rain gardens to other things. But as I said before, a lot of people just go with the drip line infiltration trench because it's easy and works. And so lastly, we need to make a final decision on approval. And I would make a motion that we approve the application as submitted with the condition noted.
We have a second.
I second it.
So we're voting on approval of the application with the stormwater management condition. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
and I'm voting in affirmative as well. So we've approved your project, Mr. Rancourt, and your permit will be sent to you in the mail. And I appreciate your cooperation and patience, more so, as we went through this process here. And yeah, if you would be kind enough to let Gary know what CMP thought of the shed. It'd be nice if they say, yeah, we don't care about a shed, but I'm sure you want to follow the rules.
Right.
Do you have any further questions of us?
No, again, I appreciate you all taking the time to do this special session. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, based on how quickly we got through it, we could have added a couple more. But, all right, well, thank you. And it turns out that my appointment at 11 o'clock was canceled, so we can do all the past, all the back. So,
Darn it, Rich, we could have,
At the end, Rich, otherwise we would have kept on talking.
yeah, we could have gone all day, Rich.
all right.
So thank you, Mr. Raincourt, where you can sign off if you'd like. I'm gonna just seek the board's input here on a couple of other matters. So
Okay, thank you very much, y'all.
A good day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, Rich, you're absolutely right. If I'd known y'all were gonna make that quick a work of this, we would have put at least one more application on the agenda. So thank you very much for taking, oh, go ahead, Rich.
I was gonna say, I don't know what other people think, but my thinking is that you pick a right time, right day. I don't mind doing this. I know it's kind of eliminating half of the board members, but I'd like to get through these things and get them out of the way too.
Well, great minds think alike, Rich, and sometimes even you and I think alike.
Which
Because
one
that's
do you mind?
My
That's
God, he's so modest.
No, I'm talking, we are not great minds, Sarah. I think Rich and I will both confess to being simple men.
Yeah.
But that's exactly where I was going is, would you threesome here, would you consider doing this again to try to knock out at least a couple more applications?
I would be okay with it.
It would depend on when for me. As it turns out, this becomes a 3-meeting week for me.
Oh, yes, of course. I get you, George. So Sarah, are you game for doing more of these?
I actually was hoping that we will go through the stuff that we are supposed to do on Thursday right now, but that's okay.
Well, we can't do that because it's not on the agenda.
Gotcha.
But I bet if you call any of your peers here, they'd probably be willing to sort of give you an overview of what's going to happen on Thursday. Of course, because you have not been involved in the Brightside case up until now, Sarah, you're not eligible to vote in that matter, and you'll be brought up to speed a little bit on what happens with the subdivision ordinance. So George, is there a particular day or week that might work well for you? Obviously not on the first or third, not on a week of the first or third Thursday of the month, because we have planning board meetings.
Yeah.
Let me grab my phone real quick so I can look at my calendar.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab my calendar myself. So
Yeah, I should do the same.
Don't give us any commercial development review application.
No, so I think for this, Rich, we would simply do shoreland applications.
Okay, I'm gonna get my calendar.
Okay.
Anthony, one concern I have a little bit is how the other board members feel about being excluded from the decision making.
I have not, all I can tell you, George, is I have not heard any kickback from that. And I do think that everyone realizes we got to do something to get some of these applications through the pipeline, because we are really, as you know, we are really stacked up.
How many we have right now?
Sheila, you did the most recent count. Do you remember how many there are? Looks like she's accessing her spreadsheet.
I'm gonna go count again.
Okay. And maybe Sheila, if you could look shoreland versus commercial applications.
Yeah, maybe this was discussed when I was out of the room, but I certainly wouldn't want to take up a commercial application.
No,
Just the three of us. And
no, absolutely.
and
In
if
fact,
we had
what-
another controversial shoreland zoning one, a la Jones or the one in the village, I certainly wouldn't want that decided just by three of us.
Agreed. So what Gary and I were looking for this agenda and would be looking for other special meetings agenda are low hanging fruit, things that are pretty simple and straightforward. You're muted, Sheila. Sheila, you're muted.
There's 8 in the hopper for shoreland, but there's one that Sarah can't, won't make a quorum if there's only 3. Because it's a revisit.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that was one we'll have to do during the regular meeting.
Right.
So 8 plus 1. So there are 9 shoreland applications.
No, there's 8. There's 8.
Oh, 8. and
So 7 plus that
Okay.
for shoreland.
Well, you know, if we could have another one of these and put maybe 3 of those on the agenda, if not 4, then that would help. And I think because we have a 5th week, if you will, this month, maybe that last week of April would be a good time to schedule something.
Yeah, I was going to say either that week or the week prior would be okay with my schedule.
Yeah, we know that we can knock out 2 in an hour about.
Well, it all it all depends upon the circumstances, Sarah. Although I'm starting to wonder if maybe Peter and Craig are just slowing us down.
Actually, we'll say,
Benefit of pre-selected applications.
So
you're not gonna
yeah,
give me, you're not gonna give me any merit?
yes, obviously you must be our secret sauce there, Sarah. So, yeah, so I think either one of those last 2 weeks of April would pretty much work fine. So you guys let us know if we want to. We could schedule one right now, or I dare say if we wanted to be ambitious, we could schedule a special meeting on each one of those weeks.
No, thank you.
Now, how do we, I guess it really depends on how complicated we think the application will be. Whether we can get 4 of them done. I think Anthony mentioned something about 4, or whether we want to be a little more conservative and put 3.
Yeah. So we'll do 3 just to be on the safe side, Rich. So I think it does actually help if we could do this again on a Tuesday morning, because Gary works a full day on Tuesday, so that works well with his schedule.
Oh, yeah, that would be helpful, because that was my other, I'd like to have the benefit of what Gary's seen in the field or
Of course.
His thoughts.
Yeah,
So
it
that-
definitely helped today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So that being the case, would you guys prefer maybe Tuesday, the 20th or Tuesday, the 27th.
Tuesday, the 27th. What was it I have on? Yeah, I prefer the 20th.
Okay.
Oh, Anthony, I don't know exactly what time it is, but Tuesday, the 20th, I have to go get my second shot.
Okay.
I can't remember what time it is. I think it's 10
It
o'clock.
might not
I'll let you.
matter much. I'm not going to be here on the 20th. That might not matter, but I just want you to know that.
We'll,
Oh,
we'll
you're
carry
going
on
to
with
Florida.
that, Sheila, if we have to.
The 20th is definitely better for me. And I'm available all day on the 20th.
Okay. George, Sarah, what is
Sheila.
your availability on the 20th or your interest?
I'm available all day.
Okay.
On the 20th, I'm available from 8 to 9:30.
Okay. So I tell you what, we'll figure out what time Gary's shot is, and
Yeah.
we'll work around that. But it sounds like perhaps an afternoon session might be a little better.
Yes.
Sheila, you going to Sheila?
Yep.
You going to Florida on the 20th?
Yes.
Well, you could take a laptop with you.
I don't think there's Wi-Fi on the.
You
Hey,
can
now we're getting ambitious.
Thanks, Gary.
choose not to come back.
I'll remember that.
Anthony, could you check or let Peter Rushton know, just so he's in the loop? I just a little concerned.
Yeah,
operating
absolutely.
Outside of
Absolutely, George. So what I'll do is, as soon as this meeting's over with, I'm just going to shoot an email to everyone, just letting them know what happened today and what the plan is moving forward. And if anyone has questions or concerns, they can contact either Gary or I.
Okay, perfect.
So I have an observation.
Sure.
Yeah, on the bright side application, I cannot vote
Correct.
and I cannot comment.
Actually,
Mm,
comment completely.
that would be
No,
a,
you probably can.
well, that would be a question for the other board members, I think. Now, the public hearing has been closed on that, so that would really be up to the discretion of the chair.
Well, you're gonna laugh. You sent me an email so I can get in the pipeline and understanding what was going on in the board. So I read the 192 pages of that application, and here are my notes. So I have a few things to say about it, but if I can, that's okay. I understand.
Okay. Well, you might reach out to Peter Rushton and see what he has to say about that.
I think the answer is because the public record is closed, Sarah,
Okay.
that all that's left for us to discuss is the adequacy of the findings of fact and law that the town attorney's assembled, and is what's actually on the agenda rather than for Thursday, rather than the full application. So even like Rich and I, for example, who have been through the entire process, I don't believe we would be able to bring up new issues or concerns or comments at this point. I mean, I would ultimately have to, that would be a question for the town attorney, but I think we're pretty limited on what we can do now that the public record is closed and we have a draft findings of fact and law before us.
Okay. I'd be interested in how everything unfolds, just for my own knowledge, I guess.
Yeah. And
I suspect that will be in the minutes.
Me too.
I believe you'd certainly be welcome to listen in on that meeting, even if you couldn't make comments on specific things. That there's nothing to prevent you. You're a planning board member and a public citizen, and have the right to be part of that thing.
Yeah, well, and it will be informative in terms of, frankly, the rest of us haven't gone through this process with the town attorney too many times prior to this ourselves. So It's the way we have to operate from this point forward, and this is a pretty controversial case. And so hence the town attorneys involved. And so, it's good to see that sort of one end of the spectrum of the kinds of projects that we get.
Interesting. Who are the town attorneys?
Well, it depends. In this case, it is Mike Hodgins with Eaton Peabody, which is based up in Bangor. And that's because Mr. Hodgins was actually working for a different law firm when he was initially got involved in the Brightside case. And so we have used his services for anything involving Brightside just because of his familiarity with the totality of that case. But otherwise, we use Bernstein Schur, which is based out of Portland.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Well, again, thank you. I don't want to keep you guys any longer because you've been very generous with your time today. So thank you all so much. Oh, we probably need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make it a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All right. I guess we're all in favor. Put your hand up.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll get these forms to you, Anthony.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, George.
All right. See you all.
Thursday night.
Y'all have a great day.
You too.